Green. Good. Hopefully you can see everything on the screen. You should see taking the PMP exam, what you need to know. And my name is Judy Hirsch. For those of you that just joined and don't know me, we're discussing everything you need to know to take the PMP exam. Maybe not everything, but as much as I can give you in an hour. And I love to be answering your questions. Before we begin, we're going to just go over some basic webinar logistic details. So we do have a Q&A session at the end, but please feel free to post your questions in the chat box as we go along, or raise your hand by clicking the React button or the icon at the bottom of your screens and select raise hand option. And then I'd love to help you there and answer any questions you may have. So these slides are designed to help answer most questions, but everybody has unique questions. So feel free to jump in. This is for you. So of course, we'll do the formalities here. These slides are just showing that the RMC and PMI attribution statements indicate that all of these resources and references we use are copyrighted and can't be reproduced. And this is our specific RMC attribution statement here. But please feel free to, again, encourage others to register for one of our classes. Here's our contact details, or you can register for our classes here as well. You have all that. You probably have our information anyway. So, and you can go to our website, of course, for RMC Learning Solutions. And just give you a super brief background on me, since so you know who is here in front of you, other than my name. So I'm a professional business coach, I'm a trainer and certified project management professional, and I have more than 20 years of experience in project management and business analysis and software training and professional development training in a lot of different industries, primarily in the pharmaceutical and IT industries. And I've led many cross-functional, cross-cultural teams around the world, and through major global initiatives in software implementation and compliance projects for companies like Merck and Abbott Laboratories and Citrix Systems. So I've had the honor to live and work around the world. And now I teach certification courses, such as the PMP exam prep course for RMC Learning Solutions full-time. So I now have the honor to do that. And I love to give a little background on RMC Learning Solutions because it's something I'm so excited about. Rita Mulcahy, who was the founder of RMC Learning Solutions, was a project manager in the late 1990s in one of the world's first PMPs, certified PMPs. And she was frustrated by the lack of these quality preparation materials. So she combined her knowledge of accelerated learning and her extensive project management experience, and she wrote the first draft of the PMP book, which was published in 1998. And at the time, it was the first and only comprehensive resource dedicated to the PMP exam preparation. So we've worked with and helped over 1 million professionals prepare for the certification exams. And not just PMP, but business analysis and ACP, in other words, Agile Certified Practitioner. We have other business analysis certification courses. So, and different methodologies, different formats, depending on what, works for you. Instructor-led, virtual, instructor-led in person, e-learning, self-study, you name it. So if you need assistance, we can provide that as well in different languages, so as well as different languages. So here's our agenda for today. Is taking the PMP exam right for me? And I'm going to go through the exam content outline as well. What's included? What can I do to prepare? And we're going to briefly go through online proctored versus test center. What should I know if you're trying to decide which location to take or which kind of type of location you'd like to take your test in, your exam in? So self-assessment. I like to start with these self-assessments when I deliver the webinars. So let me just check. I think there's some people in the waiting room I'm going to let in. Okay. Make sure everybody can get in here. Perfect. So I want to make sure that I know who's here and what your needs are of this particular group. Every group is different. So if you don't mind, as I'm going through this, if you don't mind posting in the chat, where are you in your prep? Are you in your exam prep? Are you maybe you're not ready to start your exam prep yet, and you're still considering whether you're going to take the exam? Maybe you started your application, but you haven't completed it, as you still need the 35 hours. Maybe some of you even have an approved application and you're considering whether to take the PMP exam prep course or, self-study or some other form of support. So drop that in the chat as to where you are in your whole working towards your PMP, if that's in fact what you're, doing at the moment, that would be really helpful to pop that into chat as I'm going through this. Because I also want to share, kind of go through some of these questions, which is, is your application finished? If it is, you want to start submitting your application and continue with exam preparations, if you're at that place. If you're not, if your application isn't quite finished, make a commitment to complete it this week and follow with exam preparation, of course, and study plan, or getting yourself set up to join a class or get the necessary study materials. So I see some people in the chat now are saying, "Oha, I'm waiting for my application approval." Good for you. You've submitted already. And then we have partway through RMC self-study course, decide to continue with. Good for you. Good, deciding. Okay. And May says, considering self-studying for PMP next year. I've been a project manager. Yeah, time to try to obtain the certification for my credibility, and hopefully it is so true. I will tell you off the bat, when I had been a project manager for many years, and then I started a new organization, and they said to me that within 6 months I needed to have a PMP certification. I'm thinking, but I've been managing projects for years. Do I really need to get the certification? And I will tell you, not only did it help me in that particular position in my life, but it has opened doors for me that I never could have imagined. And so I'm so grateful to this day. That was years and years ago when I got that certification. Well, it was 2013 when I got the certification. So yeah, it's been a while, but I'm so grateful to that company that required that, because I wouldn't be here with you today had I not, attained that certification. So it opens doors at this moment, not only for the work you're doing today, but the potential that you can have. And we, even PMI has statistics on earning potential and how that increases once you have your PMP certification. So I would definitely say it's a good idea. So I just, that's kind of my plug for the day. Okay. So I see Israel has started filling out the application and will begin studying next month. Good for you. PMP trainer. Excellent. Love it. Love to have you here, Marcus. Welcome. He's one of our trainers, RMCLS trainers from Germany. Beautiful. Okay, application ready. Great. Okay, this is so helpful for 2 years ago. Okay, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate that. And Alex already has a CAPM exam. Gorgeous. So if you're not, you want to make a commitment. Start committing. If you feel like I really want to do this, start making your commitments. It's all about commitment. Okay, so this, if you have an approved application, then yes, you want to pay for and schedule your exam and continue with the exam preparations and study plan. If not, you can schedule your exam. You can't schedule your exam until your application is approved. So you definitely want to make sure to get this done if you really want to go ahead and take the PMP exam in the near future. The application fees, the member price, if you're a member of PMI, it's $425. The full price is $675, just to kind of give you a heads up. And we do need 35 hours of project management education and training. Okay, but you can also meet the requirement with a CAPM certification and some other requirements as well. We'll talk about that. So, is taking the PMP exam right for me? Okay, let's talk about that. It is designed for project managers with 3 or more years of experience leading and managing projects within the past 8 years. So the application of knowledge and experience in project management, good practice situations. So the exam is really going to be focused on these things. Can you apply knowledge and experience to situations? Because the questions are going to be situational. We need to really have analysis of, like it says here, we have to analyze the situation, the questions, and even the answers to determine which is the best solution based on the exam question that you're given. You have 180 questions. You have 230 minutes to complete the exam. The current exam content outline is from January 2021. You can download that from pmi.org. If you type in the search bar on pmi.org, PMP certification, it'll take you to the page with the instructions on how to apply. It will also provide you a link to the exam content outline. Now, Before you apply, you want to make sure you meet one of the following sets of PMP certification requirements. So you can take a look at this. Of course, I just took this from the website, so we have exactly verbatim what account for your what you need is 35 hours of project management education and training. So when you are, if you decide, for example, to take one of our PMP exam prep courses, you will either get 35 credits, which meets this if you're taking the 10-week version, but if you're taking the kind of intense four-day version, you'll have 36 continuing education credits that will meet the needs that you need, what you need to fill out your application. So that's a nice benefit as well of taking a certification class, is you get those education hours automatically. So let me answer May's question. Do you have to take 35 hours or training prior to? Yes. So to completing the application, no, but to submitting it, yes. So in other words, the reason I say that is because we encourage our students, like when I'm teaching a class, I'll encourage the students to fill out everything in their application, and then just wait till they finish our class to hit submit. Right, which they need those education hours. So they'll fill out everything else, their experience in project management and putting that detail in. And the only thing they're waiting to complete is their educational hours from sitting in one of our classes. So yes, hopefully that makes sense. Before you submit the application, you have to have those application hours completed. Okay, any other questions on this? So far, I see something else in the chat. Okay, perfect. Yeah, May, you're very welcome. All right, so let's continue on. I just want to share what, if you see at the bottom here, what is required. So we have, you check your eligibility. It's kind of the steps. I hope you saw that pop up at the bottom here. You check your eligibility based on what we see here, and you prepare. You complete the application is step 2. Step 3 is you pay and schedule your exam, study, and take the exam. Probably self-explanatory there, but those are the steps. And I'm going to give you actually, I'm going to stop the slideshow for just a second because I want to provide you with a few things here in the chat, okay? I have compiled a list of links that I think are just going to be helpful for you in learning more about, different things. So if you open up that document that I just popped into chat, you will see just different links to terminology for preparation, links to videos that will tell you the difference between online, proctored, and test center locations. You will see various links to resources that you can access and use in preparation for your exam. Okay, so I'm also going to pop this in. And this is just, again, to get to PMI.org. Most of us obviously can do this, but I'm just going to pop in these links that you see on the screen. And to go to Pearson View, this is the test. This is where you would go and register for a test, for your exam if you're ready. You would go to Pearson View, and you can also just learn more about the exams and the resources that are provided to you, like the online whiteboard, which we'll talk about as well. So let me go back up here. Okay. Great. So I just want to give you a few things that will also hopefully be helpful for you. I also want to cover a few more areas. So the context, give you a little bit of context here for the exam content outline. It does change approximately every 4 years. The last change was in 2021, so that is the most recent edition of the exam content outline. Professions don't remain static. And there's, it's always a trends analysis that's being done. So PMI is always making sure that what's in the exam is really applicable to what's happening in the real world. So they're keeping their PMP certified, project managers up on what they need to know, right, for the current times. So most PMs work in a combination of development approaches. When I'm talking about development approaches, I'm speaking of agile or predictive, right, or hybrid. And the skills that are on the exam are across the PMI's talent triangle. And tasks that PMs lead and manage, that's the tasks are listed on the exam content outline. And so we know what PMI is expecting us to know in terms of the exam because they are listed on the ECO. Okay, so we'll talk about that. I see it's something in the chat. With these, so right now, Israel, we don't have any information that's saying it will be changing in 2025. So right now, it's just the same. We know right now going into 2025, we haven't had any information that's going to change yet. So the 4 years is really an approximation. If they feel like things have been stable and they really don't need to make changes, then they won't. So, keep your eye on things, but right now I have no information that anything's going to change as of yet. Good question. So PMI aligns its exam development process with certification industry based on best practices. And these are just some interesting things, based on standards for educational and psychological testing. The PMP certification is also accredited against ISO 9001 and ISO ANSI 17024 standards. So you can see why this is a pretty prestigious certification. PMI conducted a global practice analysis, which included extensive market research and a job task analysis as well. And they're always keeping their finger on the pulse. That global practice analysis revealed many trends in the profession in these kind of areas you see on the screen. So evolution of business environments, evolution of development approaches, nature of project management, ways that project managers work. So they're constantly measuring and monitoring to make sure that the exam, is going to be in alignment. The validation process assures that each exam measures the most critical and frequently performed elements of the project management profession in terms of real world settings and project management practices. So for the PMP exam, there are now 2 10-minute breaks. The first will appear after you complete questions 1 through 60 and review all your answers. So you have this total time of 230 minutes, and the exam is divided into 3 different parts of 60 questions. So like I said, once you submit a part of the exam, your 10-minute break starts. Once you submit, so you have an opportunity after you finish your 60th question to go back and review and make sure you have everything answered and make sure you're happy with the answers you have from 1 through 60. But once you actually submit part 1, then you can't go back. Your 10-minute break starts, and then after that's up, it will start again after 10 minutes for part 2, which would be the next set of 60 questions. And then you have, another 10-minute break, and the same thing. Then you start the last section. So what we really want to suggest is that since you must keep track of your break time so you can begin the next section on time, but the suggestion is the last bullet point. You want to plan for 76 minutes for part 1, 76 minutes for part 2, so you have 78 minutes remaining to complete part 3. And the way that you do that, you estimate about a minute or so per question. And when you're doing an exam, if you have access to Exam Simulator or you have access to our exam simulator, you can do that. You can practice that. You can, any of your study exam tips and tricks, always recommend, if you have access to an exam simulator, to use those on the exam simulator. Really get yourself in the mindset, not just answering the questions correctly, but also, how am I approaching this exam? Am I taking too long per question? Or am I kind of keeping my eye on the clock? If I know I want to keep it about 76 minutes per section, per part, then I want to make sure that if I'm starting it, you calculate, you see what time you started, and 76 minutes later, you want to be finished on that section. So this is just like the real exam. You want to look at the clock and say, I want to make sure I'm done with part 1 at this time and part 2 at this time. So just little things like that can really help you in your preparation. Any questions so far about just kind of the basic mechanics of what's happening in the exam? Okay, let me see what's in the chat here. Okay. Now I need to search. Do you think I can have problems with my eligibility? Because now for a little, no, you're saying no, Irma, you shouldn't have a problem. You were preparing for the exam. I sent my eligibility assessment, which was approved, didn't make it. So no, you shouldn't have a problem at all. It's a whole new, you start over again when you're, applying. You're talking about you're applying, you think you have problems with eligibility. No, that won't be a problem for you. PEG is the same. Is it the same for online at home testing? Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I don't know what you might, is it the same that oh, as far as I see this slide? Yeah, everything is the same as far as what you're seeing on this slide. I'm gonna actually go through the differences between, what it's like to take an online proctored versus test center. But as far as this, absolutely great question. All of these statistics, as far as the timing and whatnot, is gonna be exactly the same, regardless of where you are. Okay? Let's go to a few more things, and I want to keep posting the questions. I really appreciate your questions. So I'm going to show you something that I think will be helpful. So there are going to be four question types, but I will tell you that I'm going to show you this in fast track. Matching, drag and drop, multiple response, hotspot, limited fill in the blank. Majority of the questions are just going to be multiple choice, right? Multiple choice are going to be, these are some additional question types, matching and multiple response and hotspot. But let me show you over here what that looks like. Because I'm gonna, hang on one second, I'm going to stop the share here because I want to get this ready for you. What I'm going to show you is one of our exam prep. I already had it there for you. Okay, good, I have it set up for you. So I'm going to share my screen. What I'm taking you into now is good, you can see this, right? I want to make sure you can see on our screen. This is our fast track. Oops, I think I just clicked off of it. I'm going to show you our resource for your exam simulator. Uh, Here we go. I think you can see that now. Okay, let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so this is a standard question type, right? You've seen this. This is just multiple choice. Majority of the questions on your exam will be multiple choice, but you also, you may have questions. About 10% of the exam are question types other than multiple choice. So you may have something called drag and drop, where you're expected to match things up like that, like literally taking your mouse and dragging and dropping. And this is a multiple response option where it's saying pick two. Sometimes they say pick three. Okay. So then you would, pick two or three. Now you use no partial credit. So if you got one right and one wrong, it's still the wrong answer. So just know that. And then yes, this is another option where they give you some information and then you look at the answer and you type the answer that you say, oh, I know it's D. So I'm going to type my answer D. That's another potential question type you might encounter. And finally, this is called the hotspot question type. And you read the question, you say, oh, the answer is going to be, they asked me for iteration 7. I know the answer is, I did my calculation, it's 34. I put my mouse there, I click on it, and as long as you're somewhere in the ballpark, you'll get that question right. Okay, so those are question types. And this is our fast track exam simulator where you can do some practice tests or you can do a full exam simulation. But what I love about that is that you can really get into the experience of what's the exam like. So when you sit for the exam, you already had that. It's like being in the same environment that you were in your practice. So it just eliminates questions, concerns, things that, even just mechanics of how to do it. So I love those exam simulators. Okay, okay, so great question, Alha. Where can we do our calculations? So if you are in an online proctored exam where you're taking it online, your option is an online calculator, right? You have to use your computer calculator, not an online calculator. If you go into a test center, and you need to ask, may I have a handheld calculator? And they will provide you with a handheld calculator. If you don't ask, they're just going to, give you the standard online calculator as well. So it's nice in the test center to have a handheld calculator. You can ask for that. So you can do your calculations there on the calculator. And if you need to write things down, you'll have a online whiteboard for the online proctored exam. If you're in a test center, they provide you with either kind of an erasable notepad kind of thing, or a booklet where you have pages and you can write in the booklet. And then if you fill up the booklet, they will give you another booklet. So those are some options for you. You're very welcome. Good questions. I mean, I really want you to get a feel for what what's to be expected. That's the whole point, to get you as comfortable as possible. familiar as possible. So this is the ECO. Of course, you could see this as well if you go to PMI.org, but what's great about this is it helps you in your study preparation. Well, I know I want to spend the majority of my time focused on the people domain and the process domain. And of course, I also want to understand the business environment domain. The more I understand, the more questions I get right. So also, but it really helps us for honing in on what's going to be most important on the exam. And as far as development approach, you're going to see 50% of the questions that are predictive, right? Plan driven, waterfall, same thing. And you're going to have 50% that are change driven, meaning agile or hybrid. So it really is split. So when you're in your studies, you really need to know both environments. Okay, so combination of the exam is a combination of development approaches. And like we just said, hybrid, agile, predictive. And questions are going to be divided into across 3 domains: people, process, business, environment. And within those domains, you have both agile and predictive and hybrid questions, or all of those development approaches cover, of course, all the different domains. You have a total of 180 questions. You have a 230 minutes. I know we mentioned that, but it just as a reminder, 2 breaks, 2 10-minute breaks. And then you have new question types, which I just showed you on our fast track exam simulator. And then PMBOK edition is a reference for questions. So if you want to download that, it's a reference. It's not based on the PMBOK guide, but it's a good reference material. It's a good reference book to access. And again, you can access that for free on PMI.org if you're a member. It's just nice to have that as reference. If you want to look up certain terms, or you want to see all of the tools in one place, because we have everything. Like I said, we've extracted, or I'm not sure if I explained this yet, but we've extracted all the information from the different resources and put it in our exam prep materials. But sometimes it's nice if you want to reference like PMBOK or some of these other materials, because it's all like in one location, whereas we put in the pertinent chapters and divide it up in a way that's really helpful for learning. You can use these other reference materials I just want to take a look at all the tools right now, right? And you can go to PMBOK guide for things like that. Okay, so it is one of the resources. PMBOK guide is one of the resources. It's not the only resource, obviously. Process groups or practice guide is another great resource. And this just really, this is kind of a shortened version of the PMBOK guide 6th edition, because the materials for the inputs, tools, and techniques and outputs were really extracted from the PMBOK guide and put into process groups, a practice guide. So that's really mainly what that's about. You'll see you can download the process groups, a practice guide from PMI.org, and it really does illustrate the inputs, tools, and techniques and outputs, and it has graphics and explanations. And so again, we have that content in our exam prep materials, but it's not laid out in the same way. So, and it's just another great reference to have at your fingertips in your preparation, which is why I want to share that with you as well, as is Agile Practice Guide, so that you can also download from PMI.org for free if you're a member. So these are just great resources that we know that the exam has content from these resources, and that's why we've extracted the key content and put it in our materials, so people aren't going crazy trying to read all these different materials. And you don't need to read all these materials cover to cover. So we've done the work for you, but the questions are written by project managers. That's the other thing to be aware of. On the exam, the questions are written by project managers about real application of project management to situations. So that's why when you read these questions on the exam, or if you're doing your exam simulator of some kind that you have access to, you'll see everything. Almost every question is about, here's a given situation. What should the project manager do? Or what should they do first? What's the best thing that they should do? Or what should they have done to prevent the situation from happening? And so it's really, it's different than maybe definitions that we've had and maybe other tests we've taken in the past. Maybe it's been a really long time, but it was more like memorization of terminology. That's not what it's like on this exam. So really have to understand the content in a very sophisticated way in order to answer these questions correctly. Okay, and the exam is primarily based on the exam content outline. Okay, so again, many resources were used by the exam question writers, and we know it's not a test of PMBOK. It just tests knowledge, application, and analysis of project management good practices, and updated lexicon and terminology. So we just, what's great about the exam is it's keeping up on all the latest terminology. And so that's also what is in the prep materials. Whether it's ours or assuming others as well, they're keeping up on the latest lexicon and terminology because that's what you're going to be tested on in the PMP exam. So we have to know process groups, we have to know tools, we have to know techniques, but not from a memorization standpoint, not from, what are all the inputs and outputs for this particular process, list those. It's not like that. The reason we want to understand the inputs and outputs is because it helps us to determine what process group are we in. Where are we in the process? Are we in planning? Are we in executing? And when we have information like the inputs or the tools, we can start, it'll give us a clue as to where we are. So again, it's not about memorization of tools and techniques and inputs and outputs, right? It's really going to be an understanding. And so it's a different way to study for this PMP exam. So just a few things here regarding the exam content outline. When you see the exam content outline, you'll see domain, and there's 3 domains, as we mentioned earlier. We have people, process, and business environment. And then we have the description of that. So it's a high-level knowledge area essential to project management. Okay, for this exam, it's those 3. The tasks that you see on the exam content outline indicate the responsibilities of the project manager within each domain area. So this is PMI. When you're wearing your PMI hat to take the exam, those tasks you see in the exam content outline are intended to share with you, not to memorize the tasks, but to understand what you're expected to know in terms of studying for the exam. It's like, okay, if I know one of the tasks is manage conflict, like it says here, then I know I need to understand that part. How does PMI expect me to manage conflict? And so that's when the studying comes in. So you go to each task and you'll say, okay, what is it that I'm expected to know? And then the enablers will give you some examples of what that means in the eyes of PMI, if that makes sense. So that's what the enablers are. They're illustrative examples of the work that's associated with the task. And again, this is on the ECO, so I've taken this from the ECO. So people, there's 14 tasks in the people domain, 53 enablers, and this just tells you some areas that the people domain will focus on. It probably makes sense to you if you read this on the screen, right? Leading teams, developing teams, facilitating things through communication, engagement with stakeholders, right? We're getting interacting with our stakeholders. We have agreement planning and negotiation, right? This is all part of our people skills. And then we have our process skills, where we have 17 tasks and 61 enablers, and just again, examples of the tasks and different things that we're focused on in process, planning and managing the project, integration and tailoring, meaning customizing our approach for the development approach of the project and the specific project at hand, evaluating, planning, and managing project influences to make sure we're delivering value and delivering the results. And then business environment, 4 tasks, 19 enablers, and we're focusing on value and benefits, compliance, business influencers, and change management. Just to kind of give you an overview there of the ECO. So what can you do to prepare? Very important, right? Regardless of what materials, whether you work with us or in a class or with the study materials on your own. The PMP 11th edition is the most current edition, and you can join an instructor-led virtual course. You can join a in-classroom course. You can, purchase material study on your own. We have e-learning resources. So just to share with you what's coming up. So we have some classes. These are 4-day classes that I'm sharing with you on the screen. Then you get the 36 contact hours. So if you need your educational hours, this is another great way to do that. You have it automatically. So you're learning everything you need to learn to take and pass your exam, and you're getting your application hours so you can submit your application and schedule your exam. So it's win-win, right? So these are our upcoming classes and are the latest ones. And we do classes at least once a month. And I'm talking about the instructor-led virtual classes, but we also have these materials. Some people prefer to just work on their own. So you may want to just purchase some any of these prep materials. So we've got the book, either the physical book, the online book. We have the online flashcards, the simulator, right? The downloadable audio book. And because you're here today, there's also a webinar discount, which is really nice. The webinar 100. This would be for the virtual class, instructor-led virtual, if you are interested in joining that. So feel free to take that down. Webinar 100. Now, I'm just going to give you an FYI before we close here. Oh, let me just check and see if there's any questions. A hard copy included with the online course. Okay, great question, Melissa. The physical book with the online, so if you're talking about the instructor-led virtual course, you get the physical PMP exam prep book, absolutely. And you also will have access to the online Agile Fundamentals book. So that's an excellent resource that we give you as part of that, as well as the Hot Topics flashcards that you have access to, and the PM Fast Track Exam Simulator, which also has those practice tests, thousands and thousands of questions to work from. So you will, be able to continue to work as many times as you want with questions and get different questions. So over the 30 years, we have gathered and continually updating the content of all of our products. So yes, you will have all of those access, and thank you. Okay, perfect. And so just, I'm just going to mention we have other courses as well if you're interested in different, like, for example, PMI Professional and Business Analysis or Agile Certified Practitioner. But today we're really focusing on the PMP. So let's continue on with, I like to share a little bit about online proctored versus test center, just in case you might have some questions. If you're getting to that point where you're considering, what environment am I going to take my test in? So the online proctored, first of all, some pros about it. You get to test sooner because, you have options 24 hours a day, all days of the week. You don't have to travel. There's no concerns of COVID. You do have an online whiteboard and calculator, which could be a pro, or maybe it's a challenge if you like something more physical. But there are 2-step breaks, which are also actually in the test center. Online proctored cons might be that you have an online whiteboard and calculator, which could take a little bit more time to work with. And you also have to have a space with no noise or interruptions. And if you're the kind of person that reads your questions out loud or to yourself, like you whisper to yourself, like I do, then the online proctor might not be so happy with that. Might say, call you out on that because they may be wondering if you're talking to somebody in your room, right? If you're at home or, in your office. So you want to be really careful and limit your motions, movements, and such if you're taking an online proctored exam. So just things like that. Small things to be aware of. You have to take pictures of your desk and your walls and things around you and send that to them, and take a picture of your driver's license, send that. Just certain, it's not difficult, but a few extra things we have to do when we're taking an online proctored exam. Okay, so just some other things here. There's some basic technical requirements that probably most people would meet on their computer, and you can get that information if you go to pearsonview.com. Let me actually put some of these into the chat for you so you can access that. Of course, I know you can access it, but if you want it at your fingertips, I'm just going to pop it in the chat if you want to kind of explore these options now. And the other thing I'm going to put in the chat for you is the whiteboard. If you want to start practicing with the whiteboard, there's a link to that, and you can just familiarize yourself with the whiteboard. There we go. So just a few things to get you in the understanding of what to expect. Okay, as far as the testing center, the physical testing center, pros of that would be, you can actually go in. Some people are worried about noise and getting distracted. You can actually go in and ask for earplugs. You can't bring your own, but you can ask for earplugs or noise canceling headphones. If you have any kind of special needs there, they will absolutely support that. And I would always call ahead, though, if you have any special needs. go ahead and call ahead just to make sure that for that center, they have exactly what you need. Absolute ability, next bullet is ability to use center provider writing materials. So when you go in, like I was saying, you get like a note. You can either get like a erasable type of board, depending on the test center, they'll have different materials available. Sometimes it's an erasable board. Sometimes it's actually a booklet and they give you kind of a special pen to write in the booklet. That's supposed to be erasable, but from what I understand, it's not really erasable. So if you use up all the booklet pages, they'll give you another booklet. So, and then you can ask for a handheld calculator. Be sure to ask for a handheld calculator because unless you ask, the default is just to use the online calculator on the computer. And if you want to have the handheld, just go ahead and when you get to the center, ask. Of course, you have two-step breaks, just like you do with the online proctored. The cons of the testing center is the availability, depending where you live in the world, it might be a little bit more challenging to find a center that's near you. Concerns of COVID and requires inspection of clothing and glasses. So when you arrive, and also if when you come back from breaks, they'll just have you kind of pat down your clothing to make sure you're not tucking anything away, that nothing falls out of your clothing. Oh, there's some answers there. No, but they do ask you to inspect when you're at the test center, but it's not a big deal. You actually, if you go to pmi.org and you look at, there's some videos, and I put that in the links that I provided earlier, that you can see what that looks like and what it's, what's expected of you, both in the online and also when you go to a test center. They have these YouTube videos that are very nice and helpful. Okay, so great. Good question. I'm seeing a question in the chat that says, is the data dump still allowed? Writing down some knowledge and formulas down at the start of the exam on the whiteboard? Yes. What I just want to add is we don't get extra time to do that. Of course, we're using our exam time to do the data dump. So on that great question, I want to just say that practice your data dump sheet, meaning that sheet that I call it the cheat sheet. It was not a cheat sheet, but it's a sheet that you have up here of your calculations of key things that you want to remember when you're in the exam. And the first thing you do when you get into the exam is whether it's an online whiteboard, or whether you have something to write on if you're in a test center, get that out, but practice it at home before you get to the exam so you can regurgitate that in like as quickly as possible so you're not eating into your exam time. So make sure you do a lot of prep on that, your data dump sheet, so to speak, if that makes sense, so that you're really efficient in putting that down when you start your exam. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful. Good question. Thanks for bringing that up as well. Let's see, I think we're pretty much at the end. I'm all about discount codes. So again, special discount for the PMP virtual classes. Use the coupon code you see there. We talked about that briefly. And then for the Agile Fundamentals, if you're not taking one of our instructor-led virtual classes, you can still receive the discount if you use Agile Webinar 10 to receive $10 discount off this book price. So that is another option. You have so many options available to you. So take advantage of whatever works best for you. Can we have our cheat sheet at home too? Oh, okay. So the cheat sheet, no. I mean, it's the same thing, yes, but your cheat sheet would have to be on your online whiteboard. So you would, when the exam starts, you would have to open up your online whiteboard and type in, your cheat sheets content, you would type it instead of if you go to a test center, you can actually physically write it. That's the only difference, right? Is there a discount for CAPM? Oh, for the webinar. I think you mean for the instructor-led. Michelle, there isn't, it's just the PMP. Yeah. Thank you for that. Okay. Sorry about that. So let's go to questions. This is your time to ask questions. So I'm going to stop the share. I can re-pull up anything that you need me to pull up. I can pull up exam content outline or anything that you might need, but this is your time. We do have 10 minutes. So I'm impressed we have extra time to chat. But in all seriousness, what are some things that may be on your mind that you would like to know about, either our classes or just the exam itself? Any questions? I want to make sure I can see. Came about 10 minutes late. Oh, is there anything I missed that would be helpful? Wow. Melissa, good question. We really got into the nitty-gritty probably when you arrived. However, we do these prep courses that, right now what we're doing, we try to do these often, like monthly. We also have, stay tuned for that if you want to just come and see another one. The other thing is, I believe we're going to make recordings available. So I believe you're gonna have that, so you'll be able to review the recording of this as well. Slide. No, thank you for the question, May. We aren't able to provide the slide deck itself for proprietary reasons. However, I believe you can see the recording. So that should be, that'll be nice for you to just go back and review for anybody, really. Are there any reasons for completing the application? Are there any resources, resources. Yes, there are resources. And in fact, I believe that at the beginning, let me just make sure I popped it into chat. I think I provided, didn't I? At the beginning, I have did I pop in the chat? Maybe I didn't. I'm going to put into chat. Yes, I did. So I don't know if you arrived late, you may not have received it. I'm going to repost this because let me just repost this for all of you. Okay, in this, okay. When you open up this document, you're going to see also a checklist for filling out the application. Let me just see here if I know which one it is. There's going to be a lot of links. I'm popping it open on my screen so I could see which one it is. I think it says PMP, how to apply for the PMP. Here we go, PMP application checklist. So number 10 on this list, you're going to have a checklist which will help you as well in preparing for that. In preparing your application to give you some tips for that. So I tried to compile everything that I thought would be helpful for people to access in preparing for whatever you need, wherever you are in the stage in the game that you could, prepare. So let's see what else. Prepare for the exam. Okay. Yeah. Uta, you said prepare on edition 10. Good question. I wouldn't say significant changes, but there are changes. I wouldn't say significant. So I am I don't know if you have access to the simulator or if you want to get access to the simulator, but what you may want to do is if you can, get access to some simulation and see how you do with the knowledge you have from the 10th edition. And if you're finding that you're scoring, well, and you have the level of understanding you need, then you don't necessarily need to go to the, purchasing the 11th edition. So try, if you can get access to just doing some practice questions, and especially a full exam simulation of 180 questions, so you get a really good gauge. Then you'll really know, do I need to really go and review the 11th edition? So yeah, the proctor exam can be taken any time of year. And yes, PMI approves applications all year. Good question. Yes, yes, yes. If your CAPM expired this year, do I still need to meet the 35 hours of requirement? So, Israel, just to be sure, it's a great question. Call PMI, give them a call. There's a customer service number that I just want to be sure, because just in case they're changing things, make sure, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put in the chat. If there's any particular question, I'm going to pop this in. So this is PMI's phone number. I'm not sure about the expiration of that, so I'm just going to put this in the chat for you. The 610-915-2273. And then this, I know it's a US number, and they are on United States Eastern time. But you can also, of course, email them. But if you're in the States, you can call them like now and get that answer. Do you still need to meet the 35 hours of requirements? The fact that you have that, I imagine that would be fine. But just confirm with them. I just want to make sure that you have the right information. Okay. And so anybody at the proctor exam can be taken. Okay, I'm doing the online workshop from PMI. Do you have any events for clarifying or discussing doubts? Do you have any events for clarifying? Oh, are you talking about Irma, I just want to make sure questions that you have about, like you've done some practice, you've done some workshops, and you just want to kind of get right. Is that what you mean? You want to have an opportunity to ask questions to kind of confirm your understanding? Yeah. So we have once a month what are called after class sessions where you could ask some questions there. They're kind of their after class coaching sessions. In fact, we just had one yesterday. And that's a nice opportunity. If you did have questions, you could ask those. Um, and that those are once a month. So if you keep your eye on our schedule, you will, you can join us and get your questions answered. So if you go to, yeah, good question. I see your question. If you go to our website and look at our schedule, you will be able to see and sign up and register for the ones that are coming up. So that will be the best way to do it and to join. They're called that after class coaching sessions. I think it's PMP after class coaching sessions. So please feel free to join for that. Anybody else really nice questions? How are we doing? Okay, we still have a few minutes, so I'm going to make myself available for anybody who has any other questions that might be percolating about anything that's on your mind regarding PMP exam prep, where you are, what you need, any of that good stuff. But I think a lot of what you need will be in that the links that I provided you. And then of course, PMI.org is an amazing resource for you that has probably what you need. Okay. This is great. I guess my presentation was so thorough that I don't have any questions coming up. I'm just excited for all of you to really, if you're really considering this, I would say absolutely, it makes such a difference. I mentioned this previously in the last session that I did, but it changes. It opens doors for you that you couldn't imagine being open, not just in your current career, but going forward. Opportunities, increases in salary and such by having the certification. It really does make a difference to have the certification. So if you're not sure, I would really highly recommend taking that step. And I don't know if I told in this group, I was just telling the last group that I spoke with that the organization that I would work for back in 2012, when I started with them in 2012, and they asked me, they told me I needed to take, or 2013, they said they wanted me to take the certification exam. And I thought, I've been managing projects for years. I don't need a certification. But of course, I took I got certified, and it was the best thing I ever did. I'm still grateful to that company to this day because it opened up doors for me in my career that I never would have. And of course, in that company, but your confidence and in so many different ways, right? It's not just about the career advancement, which definitely happens, but just your own personal knowledge and having those tools at your disposal and those techniques and that awareness, that alone is extremely difference making. But I'm here with you today because of that company, how many years ago, right? That told me that I needed to take the exams to get the certification. So I say that just to really encourage everybody to follow through on this. Recommendations, who already has any special recommendations for exam prep for somebody who has this? Well, I mean, Alex is a wonderful, if you already have the CAPM, it's going to help you tremendously. I mean, that you already have a lot of the knowledge that you need. So you're going to be in a great position to continue to study. It's just going to be more intense, more involved, more information for the PMP exam. So, but you already have that extremely powerful and strong foundation by having the CAPM certification. It's just going to really help you. But you need to study the full PMP materials because there's a lot of additional information that's more I don't want to say technical, but just there's more there, more to know, more, more questions, more situations. We have to know how to look at things from all different angles. It's just going to be more involved. So not special recommendation, but just I would do the same thing as if you didn't have the CAPM, but when you're studying with the PMP materials, it's just going to be that much easier for you. It's going to be so much easier for you. So does the RMC PMP exam prep book include PMBOK information? Yes, 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 I want to know if I need to read both books. You don't. Israel, you don't need, if you purchase or if you already have our exam prep book, you do not need to read the PMBOK information. We have extracted the necessary information from the PMBOK guide, from the Process Groups of Practice guide, from the Agile Fundamental, all the different resources. We've done the homework. However, I always recommend, I mean, especially if you don't have a real robust understanding of certain areas, it's nice to have them as reference materials, or if you want to, like I was saying earlier, if you want to just focus on a list of a bunch of tools and techniques, because I want to start to think about those techniques, you can go to the PMBOK guide and reference it for that. So I like to have the PMBOK guide to go back and reference for certain things that maybe I want to have in a different format, or I want to look at it in a different way, and I want to look at the definitions. It's nice also for the definitions chapter in the back. They have a robust definition. So I like to have those resources, and I always encourage people to have those at the ready. But we've done the work to get you ready for the exam, which is when you're given a situational question, you need to know how to analyze it correctly, not only analyze the question correctly, and look for keywords in the question and look for the verb tense in the question. Is this a future looking question? If it is, I must be in the planning process group. If it's looking back and it's looking at processes and procedures and policies, I must be talking about executing. And if I'm looking back, but I'm looking at deliverables, and then I'm talking about a monitoring controlling function. Those kind of things with tips and tricks about how, when you read a question, what you're looking for, and then looking at the answer and making sure that things match is another key thing, that they're not talking about something predictive in the question and then they give you an agile answer choice. It's not an answer, a correct answer, because they're describing a predictive development approach. So those are the kind of things that are all in our book, in addition to, the terminology we need to know, the tools we need to know. So it's like this full, complete one-stop shop, if you will, for what you need for the exam. And that's why we have the exam simulator to support that. So hopefully, Marcus, great. Thank you so much. I'm so happy you were here to join. And see what else. Of course, to take these. Yeah, you were forced to take the exam too. I understand that. Okay, so everybody, I think we're at time. I want to respect your time and just thank you so much for being here today. And reach out to us if we can help you in any other way. Go to our website or reach out to info@rmcls.com, and we're happy to help you. And for those of us in the US, happy Thanksgiving holiday that's coming up soon, and wishing everybody happy holidays, all around the world, since we're at that time of year. And I look forward to seeing you possibly in the future at one of my classes, but if not, one of these sessions that we're going to continually do. All right, take care, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and of course today. Bye-bye.